one.
Thanks for tuning into the 6'3" podcast. I'm your host, Joel. My co-hosts, Isaiah and Ben.
Yep.
Welcome back. Some episode 40 late something. It was going to be a big week because we would have talked about Michigan and Ohio State. There could have been some good stuff there. We know we would have been, a 30-point underdog, but it would have been interesting.
Because games always fun to talk about.
Yep. So in this case, we're going to cover the basic ins and outs and kind of the crossover games, what those will look like. Brief coverage of the playoff scenario. I'm going to blow you up on NFL stats, and we're going to talk about Darrell Bevell's first win with the Detroit Lions.
Sweet.
Yep. So some stats of the week here. The Pittsburgh Steelers have now recorded a sack in 69 consecutive games. Nice.
Wow.
Tied for the longest streak in NFL history since the 99 to 2003 Tampa Bay Bucks, who had like Simeon Rice and Warren Sapp and Derek Brooks.
Yep.
And then we have here some Lions stuff. Matthew Stafford was only averaging 8.8 yards for intended air yards this season.
Okay.
Till this first game with Bevell, where we let him loose against the top 5 defense, and he averaged nearly 13 yards intended air yards. So,
yeah. I mean, there were a couple passes to Marvin Jones that were a little off target, but he had a great day other than that.
He looked pretty good, yeah. I mean, and the corners he's faced with Jalen Johnson and Kyle Fuller have a 44% completion percentage against them this season combined.
Mm-hmm.
And both of them are 6th and 7th in the NFL right now in completion percentage against. So they've been a really good corner tandem this year. Arouari is actually right after them, though, in 8th in the NFL this season in completion percentage against with 44.8%.
Yeah, he's been a nice little surprise, honestly, but he's been pretty good.
Arouari is good as long as the ball is in the air. Once it's on the ground, he misses a lot of tackles.
Other than Duron Harmon, our secondary cannot tackle pretty much.
No, it's terrible.
Our team isn't very good at tackling, in my opinion. But
it's awful.
Yeah, I was so mad watching that game. But first place, I wanted to give them a shout out at least, because how often do you see guys with XAV at first and second with completion percentage against them? That's Xavier Howard, and Xavier Rhodes is back to his old self with completion percentage against them.
Xavier Howard also has like 8 interceptions now or something, doesn't he?
Yeah, and a 37% completion percentage against. That's really good.
Yeah, he's been really good.
Stafford now has 31 fourth-quarter comebacks in his career. That is the most in the NFL since 2009, and is tied for John Elway with 7th most in NFL history.
Wow.
His 38 game-winning drives are now 2nd most in the NFL since 2009, and they tie Matt Ryan and Johnny Unitas for 8th most in NFL history.
Wow.
So he does have a clutch factor, if there is anything about that.
He's come back in a lot of games. I mean, it's unfortunate he's had to he's also not quite come back in a lot of games as well, so that tells you how they just haven't been very good. So
yeah, it's hard to come back from 17-point deficits for sure. Right. But that's why this was actually the first win by the Lions since 2014 when they trailed by 10-plus points at all.
Yeah.
2014, 10-plus points. That's sad.
I mean, I don't really care for Darren Bevell to get the job, but he got him ready for one game, so he got him fired up enough to make a comeback.
The defense actually looked worse, though.
Yes.
So that proves that maybe Patricia was helping Unlin a little bit there on the defensive side, but Bevell did take control of the offense for sure, and it worked out because I think that plays the Lions' strengths as they are an offensive team.
Yeah. I mean, I'd rather have a bad offense or a bad defense and a good offense.
Well, yeah, Ben's brought it up in past episodes. In today's NFL, you have to be able to pass the ball and move the ball down the field. Offense is even more important than defense in today's NFL.
Yep.
Yeah.
Weeks 12 and 13.
You're still going to get like blocked off in the playoffs by a really good defensive team, but you can get there on offense alone.
Yeah. In weeks 12 of 13 of his 14th NFL season, Adrian Peterson rushed for multiple touchdowns in consecutive games for the first time in his illustrious career. At 35 years old and 260 days, he's the oldest player in NFL history to rush for multiple touchdowns in consecutive games.
That's surprising for how good of a career he's had.
And just with like a mess season this year, I mean, he's had some hit and miss games, but he's getting in the end zone. He has that push.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the thing you're never going to take away from him is that just it's hard to take him down on first contact. It's like a little bit like Frank Gore. Like, he might not blow off a 30-yard run, but if you ask him to get 5 yards, he's probably going to get those 5 yards.
Yeah, for sure.
Matt Patricia's record in the NFC North was 2-13. He lost 9 straight in the division, and he never beat the Bears or the Vikings. And he still went 2-3 against the Packers. Wow.
Yeah.
And Devil starts out 1-0.
Yep.
Oh, man. The Chiefs were 0-3 versus the Bucs last week, and they started 0-4 versus the Broncos on Sunday in the red zone. And that's now 7 straight red zone drives without a scoring touchdown. That was the longest streak in the NFL this season, which passed the Jets and Giants. That's the Chiefs' offense was actually the worst in the red zone this season, at least consecutively. I thought that was surprising because when you're the Chiefs and you pass the Jets in something bad, that is
that's
not a shock.
That is surprising. They just get too cute down in the red zone a lot of times. It's like, look, man, just line up and run the ball a couple times, and that really will open up everything else. They run all these different quirky plays down there, and sometimes that's just too much. Can I throw out a stat real quick? This is going to make everybody laugh.
Yes.
This just in, Des Bryant tweets he will call it quits for the rest of the season after late scratch versus Cowboys due to COVID-19 positive.
So he really only wanted to play the Cowboys.
Uh-huh. Yep.
Got a stat. Can I get a stat in there?
Yes.
Okay. In the Raiders-Jets game, I don't know if you have this one, Joel, but since ESPN has been keeping like specified like analytics and stuff since
I do have it. I do have it.
Yeah.
I know it's
since 2006.
Yep.
252 plays that were attempted by the Las Vegas Raiders have been attempted, including the Jets play. And the Jets were the first one to rush more than six or more than 6 people. And they rushed 8. Like, there were 3 guys. They didn't get – there was one guy who kind of played a spy, but they rushed 7 and 3 were in coverage, and then that one guy ended up rushing. Mm-hmm. So they ran an engage 8 from Madden when it was a Hail Mary situation.
Yep.
So, yeah, they were the first out of 252 attempts to do that in that situation.
What was it? What was the stat? It was like no one had rushed more than 6, right?
Yeah, so
it
was
6 or less.
Situation of the final 15 seconds, down 4 to 8 points, and you're 40-plus yards to the end zone. Yep. They were the first defense to send 6 or more pass rushers in that situation.
They sent 8. They didn't just send 6 or more. They sent 8.
Yeah. I would have – see, here's my thing. I hate it when teams just sit back like you know what I mean? Because there was like 13 seconds left, I think, when the ball was snapped, right? So there was probably time for 2 plays and then a Hail Mary. So I hate it when teams just sit there like sit back too far. So I'm okay sending like an extra guy, maybe 2. But good grief, you cannot send 8 in that situation. That makes absolutely no sense whatsoever.
All it takes is a quick dump off to the running back. And because that's usually what they run, even in Hail Marys, unless they're running an empty set, it makes sense. But if they have a running back there at all, they're going to have that short route design.
Yeah, I think that was why there was that one. There was one linebacker who kind of sat right at like the line.
Running back stayed in the block. Running back stayed in for protection. He didn't go out into a route. So he's obviously they're going deep, man. Like what are we? Yeah, it was almost like they were trying to lose. They were tanking for Trevor.
It was an incredible tank job.
Got fired.
Yeah,
it's true. I don't know if he gets another job.
Maybe he's like an assistant D-line coach.
Yeah, I really do not think he gets another coordinator job because there was another season we had where, other than the 1 year good year he had with the Saints, where he had an incredible amount of turnover luck, right? Turnovers, by all accounts, there's an art to them, but like it's luck. I mean,
yeah, most of the time.
Yes.
In the NFL specifically.
It's mostly luck, right? So he had an incredible amount of turnover luck that year, and he had the weird, crazy, headhunting bounty system going there at that time too. So, you add those 2 things. He had a great season that year. Every other year, he has gotten steadily worse. Like, you are hiring him as a defensive coordinator for a high 20s ranked in the NFL defense at best if you get him. So it just makes no sense.
Yeah. So only NFL. I want you guys to guess this quarterback. Name the only NFL quarterback on an active roster who has not thrown an interception in the last 150 attempts.
Nathan Peterman.
That's incorrect.
Blake Bortles.
It's actually it's an active NFL roster. It's an actual starting quarterback.
Alex Smith.
Nope.
A starting quarterback?
He's a
Starting?
quarterback.
Tua Tagovailoa.
Nope. And he's the only NFL quarterback on an active roster who has not thrown an interception in 150 attempts.
Can you give me a conference?
AFC, and that's it.
Justin Herbert.
Nope.
Okay,
So
you got to give me
It's the last 150 attempts, not for players that have.
Right.
Derek Carr.
Do I have to go into a more specific?
Not Derek
Yeah.
Carr. He had just
AFC North.
AFC North.
Is it Baker Mayfield?
It's Baker Mayfield.
I wanted to say him, but I was just like, no way.
He's out there balling right now.
He's balling right now, yes.
Yeah?
And he's the only quarterback who's not thrown a pick in the last 150 attempps.
He also has had multiple games where he's thrown like 11 passes. He's handing the ball off. He's very good at that.
Why wouldn't you when you have a two-headed monster?
I agree, but he had a great game last game, so I'll give you
Yeah, and speaking of which, he is the first Browns quarterback with 4 touchdowns in the first half since 1951 with Otto Graham.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the kind of futility they've dealt with in Cleveland at quarterback.
Yep.
This
Getting better. I really do. I think they're getting better overall. I still I don't think they're a fraud, but I don't think they're as good as they maybe think they are. But they're getting better.
they could win a playoff game. I wouldn't be surprised.
They certainly could.
The Saints are 8-0 without Drew Brees this season and last season, which is the exact opposite of the Detroit Lions, who are 0-8 without Matthew Stafford.
Yeah, well, the Lions don't have Taysom Hill, so that doesn't help.
Or Jameis.
Or Jameis.
Aaron Rodgers is now the first quarterback in NFL history with 5 seasons of 35 touchdown passes or more. The only quarterback. Name a list of tight ends in history with 5 seasons of 1,000+ receiving yards.
Gronk? No. Gates.
Oh, I just saw that. Give me the question again.
It's Kelsey. It is Kelsey.
It's Kelsey.
Yeah, he's the only tight end in NFL history with 5 seasons of 1,000+ receiving yards. So, I looked it up for sure. Tony Gonzalez only has 4. Shannon Sharp, surprisingly, only has 3. It's some of these legendary Hall of Fame tight ends.
It's hard to get 1,000 yards. I mean, Gronk probably only has 1 or 2.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just hard, especially from a tight end.
Gonzalez, if you go to 900 yards, and Gonzalez broke 900 a couple more times, but yeah, touching 1,000 is a tough thing to do, especially as a tight end.
Yep.
And speaking
I know he's been a beneficiary of being in the Andy Reid system for so many years, but I mean, it's not when it's all said and done in a few years when he retires, he's gonna be looked at as that top 10 conversation.
Oh, I think he already is.
Maybe top 5, probably.
I think he already is. I think you probably got to put him in the top 5, possibly top 3 even. I mean, we'll see when he retires or whatever, but his stats are going to be as good or better than everybody's. So, I mean, you got to look at it, like we did with all of our top 10 lists and whatnot. Different era, what kind of offense did he play in, that type of thing. But at the same time, he's been absurd, just insane.
He has been really good. And speaking of tight ends, Darren Waller is now the 4th tight end in NFL history with 200 receiving yards and 2 touchdown catches in a game. That joins Jackie Smith, Rich Castor, and Shannon Sharp. And 2 of those 3 are Hall of Famers.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people had him as a breakout player this year where people would know his name, and that's definitely coming true.
Yep.
And then I got a couple more here. Justin Jefferson is over 1,000 yards now receiving. He's the first rookie Viking to do that since '98 with Randy Moss.
Wow.
Colt McCoy beat the Seahawks, and that was his first win as a starter since October of 2014.
Oh,
6 years.
that's insane. When I saw that, I was like, is he even? I didn't even know he was in the league. Like,
He's bounced the last couple of years to a couple of teams. Yeah. Let's see what I got here. You read my Jets and Raiders one. Let's see what else I got here. I got a college one. Since 1981, the largest spread in Ohio State versus Michigan was minus 20.5. It was 30 points this week before the cancellation.
Yep.
Oof. Oof.
Yep.
And then my last one, this is probably one of my favorites. In the last 5 weeks, Carson Wentz has more end zone completions to players named Diggs than Josh Allen.
That's not good.
So that means he threw a pick to Trevin Diggs in the end zone in week 8 and Quandre Diggs in week 12. And then their only week 10, Stephon Diggs' only touchdown in that span was week 10.
That's awesome and horrible, but that's awesome.
So yeah, definitely interesting stuff. And I guess that would kind of lead to playoff chat. As of right now, the first seeds are still the same, Pittsburgh Steelers and New Orleans Saints. But the 7th seed now has the Colts in the AFC, and the Vikings are the 7th seed in the NFC. And now the Giants have their division. So
the Giants are getting better too. That's a team that's starting to figure a few things out.
Yeah, the Giants just have a hard, so they're kind of tied technically with Washington. Like, I know they have the tiebreaker with head-to-head,
Yep.
but they definitely have a harder schedule. Like,
No doubt.
Washington winning the Steelers game put themselves in an incredible spot to take over that, because they both have I think Washington's got 2 more wins in them, but the Giants, they have the Cardinals, the Browns, the Ravens, and then the Cowboys, 1 win unless they
literally lose all those games, and I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I think they beat the Cowboys.
The Cowboys, because they beat the Seahawks with a backup quarterback. That's the hard thing. It's maybe they get Danny. Maybe they don't want Danny Dimes back, but if they do, I feel like that defense is, like you said, Ben. That defense has really been playing well, and as a whole, as a team, has really kind of helped, because it's not an effective offense. They put up 12 points to the Seahawks. So, and the Seahawks have a bad defense.
Yeah, if the football team can beat the 49ers this week, I think they're going to win the division, because they have the Seahawks next, which hopefully the Seahawks aren't going to drop 2 games to bad teams, but then they have the Panthers and the Eagles, and those should both be wins. So if they can win against the 49ers, if they're banged up enough for the Washington football team to beat them, I think they got it in the bag.
Yeah, I would agree with that one.
Yeah, and speaking of how bad the Seahawks have been, I think Russell Wilson has officially given up his MVP award to Mahomes or something.
Yeah, I would say you got to probably give it to Mahomes.
Oh yeah,
Aaron Rodgers once again having a good season.
Yeah, Rodgers.
Yeah, I just think they're gonna, if it stays like this with Rodgers and Mahomes, it's gonna go to Mahomes.
Yep. Tyreek Hill.
No. Yeah.
No.
He's the first wide receiver. He's the first wide receiver in the history of 101 NFL seasons that doesn't know that he caught the ball when he caught the ball.
Exactly. Yeah, that was insane.
At least even he didn't even plead a case.
No, he didn't.
I know.
That was amazing. But if Hill goes off for a ridiculous game like he did against Tampa Bay, then I think you got to throw him in the conversation, because the stats would be pretty absurd.
His stats.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's. I still think it'll be a quarterback for MVP, because it seems to always be. But I think
he could get OPOY.
I was gonna say, I think he's in first place for OPOI.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Yeah, with there's so many injuries to so many other guys, and it's usually a running back or a wide receiver, really. Those are.
There haven't been any ridiculous running backs this year.
That's what I'm saying. So I think it's going to be a receiver.
Had a good year. Other than that, there's not a bunch of big names. Normally you'd have your Christian McCaffrey, your Saquon Barkley type guy.
Right.
Dalvin Cook, I guess you could probably throw in there for having a big year too. But
yeah.
Do you? What is the percent? I don't know. Do we want to talk about this leading into the next subjects? We're talking about playoffs now. The Lions are not out of the playoff picture.
Oh, Joel, don't do this, man.
They've got momentum.
Don't do this. Don't do this. Stop.
Don't do this to yourself.
Okay, I'll give this to you, Joel. I'll give this to you, okay? I think they will end up in 9th place.
Okay.
Okay.
Just
I
outside.
think they will. I think they're in 8th right now. I think they'll jump over the Bears because the Bears are tragic. I mean, if the Lions get back like Galladay next week, I don't know what that's looking like, but like,
What's the percent chance they get a home win versus the Packers?
I don't know, dude.
32%.
That's a good percent. I would probably say
It's just like
but it's not unheard of. It's not.
it's not at all.
And of all
It's
the
not
NFC
at all.
North teams, they've played the Packers actually better than all the other teams.
They have. It's not unheard of.
And I don't think that, like
either, though.
then they play the Titans, and I think the Titans are frauds. Like, I think they're gonna kill the Lions, but I'm not saying it's unheard of that they might win.
I mean, I just can't imagine the Lions remotely coming close to tackling Derrick Henry.
Yeah, true.
They can't even tackle.
No, that game is gonna be. I'm glad I have Derrick Henry for the playoffs. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Because that game will be huge for me if I get that round.
No, I don't think that. I think the Lions win one more game. I think they beat the Vikings.
Yeah.
I think they keep it close with the Packers, but I think just like the years that the Lions beat the Packers is when the Packers just like are pretty much locked into their playoff spot, so they're like willing to lose some. Like they never beat the Packers when it matters.
I'm drinking so much Kool-Aid right now. They're not playing the Packers in Week 17. That's why.
I know, but it matters for the Packers right now.
But they've got the division locked up. There's several games ahead.
I know, but they still want to like get a high seed. They want to have a home game.
I just look to the Lions. I agree. The Lions they'll probably find a way to win one more game. Now
they'll beat the Vikings.
I think they could find a way to win 4, but I'm not going to say that.
4.
I don't think there's a 0% chance in any of these games.
I agree. There hasn't been a 0% chance in their whole season, but yet.
But there is a 0% chance that they win all 4.
Yes, they're not winning all of them.
Oh man, no,
From individual probability, sure.
The more games they win, the more likely it is that they will lose their next game. The world has to.
I don't know why my brain is turning like this because I bet the last several weeks for the most part I've bashed the Lions pretty hard, but they're getting if they get Swift and Galladay back, Trey Flowers is expected back, Hood is expected back. They're getting all their guys back again.
If
it's not gonna happen though. You know what's gonna happen. They're gonna give you this life, right? They're gonna give you this feel good. Oh my God. You've got this Darrell Bevell, man. He's gonna turn him around. He's got He unleashed Stafford. No, it's not gonna happen. They're gonna show up for the first half against like the Vikings, and then they're gonna lay an egg, and they're gonna just just disappoint you and everybody else like normal.
The good news is if they lose to the Packers this week, I don't care anymore.
Sure.
Okay, I don't care anymore anyway.
I was already out of that.
Can we get back to playoffs? Let's playoffs. So the Arizona Cardinals.
He's trying to put the Lions into the playoffs.
Their Arizona Cardinals are tied with the Minnesota Vikings right now. Who do you think is going to get in between those two teams?
I think the Cardinals are overall a better football team, but not that far behind. Joel's sitting there, he's struggling.
I'm praying for the words.
You can't get
what would be
your hopes up like this, dude.
You know what would be really funny? If Des Bryant had a false positive.
Yes. Now
I just thought of that.
Calling it quits, boys. Calling it quits.
Because that happened to some player. They had a positive test the morning of their game, and then it turned out to be a false negative, so they could actually play.
Yep.
I forget who it was, but
yeah. The Cardinals I think are a better team. The Vikings are
better.
I don't know.
Vikings played like butt at the beginning of the season. They're on a hot streak.
They are on a hot streak. Well, they just started really just relying.
Justin Jefferson is the real deal.
He is the real deal.
He is good.
They're pretty close to the same. I just like watching the Cardinals play more because Kyler Murray's, lightning in the bottle every time he takes a snap. So, but I think the Cardinals find a way to squeak that out. So,
yeah, I'd probably pick the Vikings in that game.
Yeah, and then in that between the two,
there's kind of like a log jam with
the AFC kind of at the end. So, it seems like the Browns are kind of separating themselves. So you got Miami, the Colts, the Raiders, and the Ravens all kind of battling for those last two spots. Do you guys see obviously I think it depends on how the Ravens look tonight after a weird week and a weird game against the Steelers that looked terrible for everyone.
If the Ravens play really ugly and win, or just if they find a way to lose tonight, I would just knock them completely out of it at this point. They're just they've had a lot of issues, beyond their control. They've had some injuries.
Lamar's been figured out.
But they've got COVID issues. I think they, in a way, exposed the Steelers, though. Their game, where they had RG3 running wild on them for a minute. But at the same time, I just don't. The Ravens are a fringe playoff team right now, to me. That's how I look at it.
Well, they are, depending on how this game turns out, they're either going to be tied with the Raiders or tied with the Patriots, and neither of those sound desirable.
No, and I just, as good as they were last year, they had so much fourth down luck. They had some turnover luck on defense, and Lamar was kind of a new fad, and he's been figured out to an extent. And I think Lamar Jackson is certainly still an incredible playmaker.
For sure, yeah.
And he's going to make plays, but it's not to the level that it was last year. And,
I think it's really easy to figure out certain players, and I think
it's a one-trick pony right now.
Yeah, but great players and great coaches together will never be figured out. The fact that Lamar Jackson is just a good player and John Harbaugh, I think, is just a good coach. They can be figured. Look at Mahomes and Andy Reid. You would think someone would have figured that out by now, but no one has.
Well, the other thing is
Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. No one ever figured them out because they were both great.
The other thing is with when we talked about it, it's much harder to just defend the pass all game than it is to stack up against the run all game, right?
Yeah.
So the Ravens have an incredibly diverse run game. They stress the defense more than probably any team in the league right now with their run game. However, so it's hard to cover. They will hit some plays on it no matter what, probably. But you can't do that all game long right now in today's NFL, and you have to have some sort of pass game. And the Ravens, right now their quarterback isn't at that point, and their receivers aren't there. They've got Mark Andrews is a pretty good tight end, but they just aren't quite at that point where they can drop back and pass the ball 40 times a game, and you've got to be able to do that sometimes. Not all the time, probably not even half the time with that team. But you got to be able to do it to beat the better teams right now, and they can't do that, and that's why they're a 6th, 7th, 8th place team. I think that's where I see them right now.
Yeah, and Kyle Shanahan may disagree with me, but it's so much easier you can be so much more creative in the passing game. So it's way harder for a defense and a defensive coordinator to figure out how to defend a passing game. That's why Kyle Shanahan is so awesome, because he's so creative in the run game. But it's with the run game, you're running inside or out, you're pulling or you're not pulling an offensive lineman, and you might do a delayed couple things, but you're limited to a few different things. And when a defense wants to figure out, they just put a hat on a hat. They just put a guy on every guy, and they account for you if they know you're going to run. And they try to get one free man or one guy to break his block, and they're going to bet on their guy in the open field versus yours unless it's Derrick Henry. Every other running back, they're going to rely on a linebacker versus your running back. In the passing game, you see so many different routes, and you see so many different coverages. You see so many different crossing routes and combination routes and all these other different things that it's so much harder to put a hat on a hat in the passing game, play just man up defense. Because what if you just get Tyreek on a in route that just he just digs in the ground, cuts your guy, and you can't do anything about it. It's so much easier to do that than to block the run efficiently.
These athletes at receiver and tight end and running back, they're incredible athletes, and you just can't cover them for more than 3 seconds, at a time.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so – and just with the NFL rules right now too, and, they're blending towards the offense, it's so hard to defend these guys in space. Can you imagine the Ravens offense if they could pass the ball even 30 times a game with efficiency and threaten the defense? It would be incredible. With that run game, it would literally be unstoppable, right? but this isn't college football. That's kind of like what Alabama looks like right now. They're passing the ball with incredible, and they can run the ball. They can do whatever they want, right? But that just doesn't happen in the NFL, and they're definitely a bit of a. I wouldn't say they're a fraud because I think they've just been figured out, and they're flawed. They're not a fraud. They're flawed. They just have issues that they can definitely beat up on some bad teams when they're fully healthy, and Lamar's out there making plays, but they're not gonna. I just don't see them as an upper echelon team this year. I don't see them as at all as a Super Bowl contender, and I see them as a fringe playoff team. So,
yeah.
So two divisional races I want your guys' opinions on. They're with the so one AFC, one NFC. You got the Titans and Colts, and you got the Los Angeles Rams versus the Seattle Seahawks. Both tied. They just lead on different tiebreakers and what it is. But who do you see out of those two groupings? So Colts versus Titans and Seahawks versus Rams to end up at the top of the division.
So, if I'm picking the teams that are trending higher now, I'd pick the Colts and the Rams, actually. I just think the Rams are playing better football right now than the Seahawks. And the Seahawks started off incredible, and Russell Wilson's out there just MVP, shoe-in and just dominating. And I think he came a little bit – water finds its level to an extent, and I don't think Russell Wilson is playing poorly necessarily, like really, really bad, but – He's not. He wasn't going to continue to put up the video game numbers he was just because that's not him. He's an upper echelon quarterback that probably, it needs to be in the MVP race and considered, but he's not. He's not Patrick Mahomes. He's not Aaron Rodgers. He's just below those guys, right? And water found its level. He came back to earth a little bit, and the Seahawks really don't have a whole lot on defense this year, and their run game is suspect. So they're coming back to earth a little bit as well. And then the Titans, I think Derrick Henry's obviously still a monster, and but they're not diverse enough. They're kind of like the Ravens to an extent. I don't trust Ryan Tannehill to go out there and win football games. So that's why I'd definitely go with the other two teams. The Rams are just playing good, solid football, and the Colts same way, and Colts have a really, really good defense. So I would definitely pick those two.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with. I'm going to say Seattle. I think Seattle. He's still an MVP caliber quarterback, but he's definitely hitting a rough patch right now.
Yeah.
Defense. I'm gonna basically talk myself out of it because Ben's exactly right. The run game is not good right now. And obviously they've dealt with their fair share of injuries to get to the point where they had to start DJ Dallas at some point. And the defense, obviously the secondary is nothing to smile about. It's not good. Like Quandre Diggs was better off in Detroit. Let's just say that, if that says anything in the secondary. And then the Rams, they get pressure, and that starts with Aaron Donald taking up 3 offensive linemen at once. Jared Goff, McVay runs that offense perfectly for Jared Goff because I don't think Jared Goff is a successful quarterback virtually anywhere else.
No. Nope.
And we all talked about at the beginning, the run game, we expected Malcolm Brown and Darrell Henderson to be perhaps the worst running back tandem in the league at the beginning of the season, and yet they're still able to find ways to do just enough to get the ball moving. And Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp have been early. Nice tandem. I'm talking myself out of the Seahawks. I'm going to say the Rams have that trend right now, where they're just playing better, and I think they are just more all around a more solid football team. And I think like Ben said, the Seahawks, they have really great strengths, but those strengths can only get you so far.
Well, I think if the Seahawks are playing like they were at the beginning of the year, I would obviously be picking the Seahawks. But it's just if you're looking at how they're playing now, it's just they've done almost a complete 180, which happens to every team this year. I mean, if I were to pick those two, here's the thing: if I'm going to pick them to play today, I don't know if I'd pick the Rams. But overall, as a team, throughout the rest of this season right now, I got to go with the team that's trending. So,
yeah. I say Derrick Henry, and this is the same thing Isaiah said last week's podcast, and I was listening to it over again. People are sick of trying to tackle 6'5", 1,000-pound running backs at this point in the season. They're just tired. They're beat up.
Well, and if you look at – so I'm going to say that Man, I think actually the Seahawks jump the Rams. I just think they have a more favorable schedule. They play the Jets.
I totally did not look
Washington
at the
football
schedule,
team.
but
Yeah, they play Jets, Washington football team, Rams, 49ers. So I think it's actually going to come down to that Rams Seahawks game, and I think the Seahawks would win. It's at home. It's later. I think they just have a more veteran-minded team. But I think the Titans hold strong at their spot because of what Joel's saying. So they play the Jaguars, the Lions, the Packers, and the Texans. And the Colts play the Jaguars, the Texans, the Steelers, and someone else. But I both think they drop one game. But the Jaguars, the Texans, even the Lions, no one they're just going to get beat down by the run game. And with the Titans, they're just getting even if it isn't just this guy doesn't want to tackle Derrick Henry, they are just beaten and broken teams. I mean, you got the Texans, who will be the last week of their most disciplined a long time. It'll be Jacksonville, who.
Wait.
Okay, sorry, my computer just exploded.
At least you froze on a really attractive.
But yeah, Jacksonville is 1-10, 1-11. They don't want to tackle anybody. The Texans disappointing. The Lions even I think they're just sick of it. That's 2 weeks away. They're going to be sick of Darrell
That's the most
Bevell.
confident loss I have against the Lions is probably the Titans. The way that I saw them trying to tackle David Montgomery. David Montgomery is Walmart or Kmart's version of Target's Derrick Henry. I don't know.
Yeah. So I trust, if it comes down to it, I trust the Titans versus the Packers more than I trust the Colts versus the Steelers. So I'm going to say Titans hold strong. I don't think either of them are – I think they're both one of them's not going to get past the first round. Whoever does gets into that spot, one of them might win a game, but they're not going to be competitive in the AFC playoffs. Same with the Rams and the Seahawks. The Seahawks have obviously shown that they are not the 5-0 team that started the season, but they are the 3-4 team that has played since then. And the Rams just I don't know. I just I don't trust Sean McVay since that whole just collapse from after the Super Bowl. That season after the Super Bowl, just they became baby soft, and I don't trust him to make a playoff run. So
okay. That's some good insight on the potential playoff picture here. Let's get to the Lions though, and Darrell Bevell getting his first win, going 1-0, and also in the NFC North. What about the rest of the season? What about Darrell Bevell's future? How do you feel about this game versus the Packers?
So rest of the season, I don't think anything – I shouldn't say. I think what you can take from it is that Matthew Stafford is still an upper echelon quarterback. That's all I'm taking from that game.
Yeah, the defense is just plain bad.
The defense is bad. The Bears are bad. I think you can take that from the game. If you're looking at the other side, you can certainly take the Bears being very, very bad.
Mucho bad.
I think the Lions, it's heartening to see the Lions care. They certainly didn't go out there and just look like they didn't care about what was going on. So Bevell definitely had them, in the right, mindset to play that football game. And it's always good to beat the Bears, but I don't think you can take anything from it. Now, I will give you this, Joel. They go out there and they beat the Packers. They will have piqued my interest for the rest of the season, right? But I just don't think you can take anything from it just because of how poor the Bears have been. They're in a tailspin, and I think they're going to gut their entire franchise here shortly after the season. So, they're not in a good spot.
I'm just saying, if they beat the Packers,
yes.
If you give the Packers the Lions' schedule the rest of the way, you have the Packers. You probably say the Packers beat the Titans. You probably say the Packers beat the Bucks. You probably say the Packers beat the Vikings.
Yeah, but I'm not going to use the transitive property to see what. If the Lions beat the Packers, I'm no longer putting them as good as the Packers. They just happen to be better that day. I'm not using that. That's like if like
Good comeback. Good comeback. You got me. All right.
it's
Cool
like if
beans.
like all those jokes about like this team beat so and so, but this team lost to this team.
Yeah,
and we
I know. Even a blind squirrel finds a nut, and a broken
Yeah.
clock is right twice a day. I know.
Correct. And it's like, okay, well, I mean, yes, if the Lions beat the Packers, I will be tuning in. I'm going to watch the games regardless, but I will be much more excited because the games will probably have a little bit more stake, I guess, right? Because if they go on a crazy run here, things happen. It's not going to happen. I'm not getting my hopes up.
So part of me wants them to lose this game though, just to get it all
Yes,
over with.
please.
Just because, but if they don't, I still feel like
Here's the biggest problem, and this is what we talked about. They're gonna get like the 16th pick, right, of the draft or something stupid.
because they're gonna go win some dumb games when they're out of the playoffs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's where.
Yup.
Because Darrell Bevell is still coaching for his job, he's still gonna go out there every single week.
Absolutely, and
Well-
Stafford's not gonna go out there and lay an egg. Some of these guys are out there. They're on short-term contracts. They're out there. They're playing for their next job. They've got, and they sort of have something to play for right now, right? Sort of, not really, but sort of.
Yeah.
So
So currently they're the 13th pick.
Oh, I thought they were 12.
more games somehow, still miss the playoffs, and end up with the 15th or 16th pick. It'd be something stupid.
Well, I mean, so yeah, they've got 4 games here. So
And just lose them all, please.
well, that'd be ideal. If you lose it all, then you're looking at like a top 8 pick.
No,
Yes.
to win them all, that would be ideal because then you'd be like, "Holy crap, we might have something here." Right?
No, I don't. Okay.
Here's my.
But then you're stuck with Darren Bevell.
Here's my issue. You can.
He's an accountant, dude. I don't want him coaching my team.
He's a Wisconsin quarterback.
He looks like an accountant.
He's like Jack Cohn.
He looks like he works.
You don't have to. You
He
don't
looks
have
like he
to
works
hire him. I
at
don't
the
care
Big
if you know.
Dutchman in
You don't
Holland.
have to hire him for anything. Here's my thing, and here's my issue with it.
All right.
That
tell me.
last week was the first time that they looked competent. I wouldn't say first time, but one of the few times they were competent on offense this year, right?
Yes.
Looked like they were
The
fired
the
up
only time.
to play the
It's
game.
the first time they look competent in offense without Kenny Galladay. I'll say that.
Yeah, for no doubt. So
And DeAndre Swift.
it
Man.
actually makes me angry because it's like they could have done this all year long, and they did it
Yeah,
against.
but they had a vampire sucking the soul out of them.
That's what I mean. But what in the world was happening with Patricia? Like, what was going on in those practices
So
every week?
I want them to keep Darren Bevell, not as a head coach, but he seems like a guy who can get these guys on his side. He can get them up for a Sunday morning. Like, it seems like he can get them roused. So keep him on the staff. Whatever it means, just keep him there. But I just like, if you're looking for actual things that are going to result in success for the Lions, a possible, very, very lightly possible playoff berth and a first-round loss, or a top 10 pick.
Yeah, I want them to have top 10 pick. But I mean, it's always fun to see.
If they make the playoffs though, like I'm not mad. Like I'm pretty
I will be mad. You will see me on this podcast mad.
Stop it.
No.
I said, I will give you if they can find a way to win this week, which I just don't. Here's the thing: they've played the Packers very well. The Packers have issues. I just think the Packers are gonna win by 2 touchdowns. I really think they will. I think it'll be a 35-21 game, and the Lions will keep with them early and maybe all the way into the fourth quarter, and then it's just gonna kind of get away from them. And,
So despite my hope, I am still picking the Packers to win this game.
Yep.
And part of that is still like I'm just saying it's not out of the question for any of these games to go the Lions' way. And the problem is if Darrell Bevell, if he goes even 4-1 or 5-0 with the Lions, he's gonna probably get the head coaching job, to be honest. And if he goes if he wins 2 or 3, I think he stays as offensive coordinator. And if only he beats the Bears, I think he's gone.
I don't think he does anything. I don't think he stays at all. And here's my thing with that. I think, okay, yeah, if he brings him 5-0, yeah, maybe he's got a good chance because he's got something to back it, right? But if you can't mandate the new head coach you're bringing in, if you're going to bring a new head coach to keep Darrell Bevell as the offensive coordinator. No new head coach is going to even want the job then, unless they actually want him as the OC. I don't think he's a bad OC. I really don't. He's Stafford's guy. He and Stafford are tight, but that's not. No, I don't think that's they're going to keep him just for that, right? The only reason they keep him is if they're going to hire him as the head coach. The thing we have to remember about this though is we get all excited about this win, right? The Bears literally handed us the game. Literally,
the Bears the game in week 1.
Literally, pretty much the opposite of week 1. You're right. Like, literally handed us the game. Like, we're down 10 and we throw an interception, and the game should have been over, right? And the Bears literally gained, from that point on, like 5 yards of offense.
Yeah.
It's absurd. They did not gain a first down from that point on.
Yes.
Literally it was insane. Like,
it's really good. It's really easy to have your offense look good when you're playing on the same field as the Chicago Bears.
That is true. And still somehow gave up a touchdown with over 2 minutes left. And then Trubisky decided to.
I was gonna ask you, who do you think was the Bears' Week 1 DeAndre Swift? Who's the one that choked that game away? Was it? Okay, I was gonna say you can say Matt Nagy, you can say Jermaine Ifedi, you can say Allen Robinson for running out of bounds, or you can say Mitch Trubisky.
It'd be Allen Robinson because it's not someone who's just bad at what they do. It's just they are good, but they screwed up once. So it'd be Allen Robinson.
I don't think it's Trubisky's fault that he fumbled. I mean, I don't think.
Yeah, you can't see the blind side. That's your blind side.
He could really do there. He's about to throw the ball. I mean, yeah, it sucks. You talk about ball security all the time. It's great, but there's nothing else he could do there. So.
But Ifedi was the one that allowed the sack, and then he also fell into the arms of the ball, and he still didn't recover it, and then it bounced into the line.
My problem is it's the play calling. And it was the play calling, not any of the other drives, but it's the play calling after the interception. You need to be aggressive there and go score and put the game away. The game needs to be put away, right? Now they got set back by a holding call, but they sat on it. They took the air out of the ball at that point, and you can't do that. So I blame the entire thing on Matt Nagy, and then henceforth Pace, and they should gut the entire organization and start over. So
yeah,
we spend so much time talking about crappy teams.
It makes our show depressing. People want to listen to depressing things in 2020. Yeah. Isaiah, what's your final score prediction this game? Ben said 35-21 Packers. What's yours?
10-28 Packers.
28-10. Dang. Okay.
That would be that'd be depressing, especially if Swift and Galladay come back. If that's our final score,
if they come back, I'm gonna go 42-21.
Oh, so now the Packers magically scored more. That's weird.
Yeah, because the Lions will score more quickly, and then give the Packers more time.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'm saying the Packers, and I think it's going to be 34-24.
10-point win.
Gross.
Yep. So good stuff. We won't talk about the depressing stuff anymore. I want to hear about the crossover games from Ben.
It's depressing in a way, but yeah. So basically,
it is not Michigan.
Obviously, Michigan and Ohio State got canceled. So there's a lot of weird stuff that's going to happen in the Big Ten. It's kind of a mess. The Big Ten did this to themselves by saying, "Oh, we can play 8 games in 8 weeks with no disruption, and we have no built-in bye weeks, and no one's going to get COVID." No, they did this themselves, so it's their fault. But they this year to get an extra game in, and it was just, I think it's a pretty good idea just given the circumstances of the year. They're calling it the week of the Big Ten championship game. They're calling championship week. So
everybody gets a trophy.
Everybody, yeah, it's kind of everybody gets a.
It's the millennial age, man.
Yeah, it's kind of lame, but it is good that everybody gets to play another game. I think just because these players are going out there doing all this and still playing. They're not getting paid for it, so you might as well give them another game. So basically, it's going to be figured out. The matchups are not set at all yet, but it's going to be crossover East-West and the Big Ten. So obviously, winner of the Big Ten East, winner of the Big Ten West, they play each other in the Big Ten championship game, and then second place of each play each other, and then it goes down the line.
Yeah.
So It'll be interesting. I mean, Michigan will probably play a crappy team.
Pretty much Nebraska, Purdue, or Illinois.
Illinois could be the Brandon Peters Bowl. That'd be fun.
Hey.
But it'll be
We
good.
didn't get to play him wasn't it last year where he was hurt?
Yeah, he got hurt. He was hurt or something. So, I don't know. Like, I hope Michigan can get in another game because I really don't. I mean, it's just kind of a bummer if that's it for the season.
I don't want to. I never would have expected Penn State to be the last game. So
yeah, and it's just kind of one of those. It's been a bummer of a season period, just with the circumstances and just everything that's happened. You take the season record out of it. It's just been kind of a lame, just injury filled, annoying, dealing with all kinds of garbage season, right? And it would be good to see them go out and put together a good game again. And it'll be kind of fun to watch if they can get all those games in. Just watch a full slate of Big Ten football that day. So that'll be fun. And then the big question is, we can kind of lead into this now. The Big Ten, when they came out with this 8-game schedule, they said, look, in order to be eligible for the Big Ten championship, you need to play 6 games. Ohio State has only played 5, or you had to play more than 6, or I don't know what it was, but
at least 6, I think.
Yeah, you got to play at least 6, and they've only played 5 because they've had games canceled due to COVID. So they were really counting on getting in this Michigan game. Obviously, Michigan was only going to be down to like 45 players available on the team. I mean, talk was Dan Villari.
That's how much play in the NFL.
Well.
They
were down to 1 scholarship quarterback. It was going to be Dan Villari. So,
ooh, I would have loved seeing our third stringer.
Michael Barrett was taking quarterback snaps, so we had problems.
That's awesome.
So, it's for the best that they didn't play this game. It sucks, but that's the situation we're in, I guess.
If Ohio State would have given us the 35-point mercy rule, I would have played.
Maybe. It just wouldn't have been safe. It just wouldn't have been smart. You're not going to be able to go out there and – I mean, you're down to probably third or fourth stringers across the board. So it's like, this is just dumb, right?
I might have had like a couple starters out there, but –
maybe if you don't know. So then, the question is, now is the Big Ten's talking, look, Ohio State is being – is right now their latest college football playoff rankings. They're number 4. So do they change the rule at the end of the year? Do they change the rule and say, look, they're clearly one of the 4 best teams in the country. We need to let them play this game. How do we go about that? So they're talking about changing the rule. I think they probably will. It's pretty much writing's on the wall there. Now the question is that right? I don't know. I mean, Indiana, Tom Allen already came out and was like, yeah, Ohio State beat us, so, they obviously deserve it. But, Indiana's sitting there going, okay, look, I mean, they made this rule, and we've played all our games. Do we deserve it more than them? They probably don't, just because they played each other. But
yeah,
that's the question. So I don't know. Do you guys have thoughts on that change? I don't really have an opinion on it. I mean, do I think Ohio State is one of the 4 best teams in the country? Yeah, they're 4 or 5, I'd say, just from watching teams this year. So, and it's not really anybody's fault that these games aren't getting in. I think you can pretty much say that they're, the best team in the East. Pretty simple. However, the thought is, okay, then why did you make the rule in the first place? If you were just going to change it. So that's the argument against it. What's the point of the rule then? Because then really, theoretically, Ohio State could have played 2 games this year. And if you said, oh, they're still the best team, you could have changed the rule. So I don't know.
Well, I'm in a way sort of relieved that they didn't play Ohio State, because I knew we'd probably just get our tail handed to us. But I would have loved to see Michael Barrett throw some passes.
Yeah, I don't know if they would have thrown him any passes, but Haskins Wildcat.
Yeah, I just think that, like, I'm glad they do the playoff. I'm glad they've done it for the past 5 or so years, but I just think the system is flawed. Like, just
so flawed.
Like it needs to be at least 8 teams. I think they need to do it a little more professionally, like a professional sports league where if like with the NFL, if you win your division or if you win your conference, you get in. Because like I'm looking at the standings right now and the change from the last week, like, and they need to give room for these G5 teams. Like it's ridiculous that like Cincinnati is still 8-0 and they went down in the rankings.
Yeah.
Like, and Coastal Carolina like is still only 13 and they're 10-0. Like I get it, it's Coastal Carolina. They probably get freaking blasted by Alabama or Notre Dame, but I want to see it happen. You know, like
here's my thing, and I've thought this. Like, if you could just open it up to, you could open it up and do it a really cool way. Like you could do this like in an awesome way to do it, like almost like D3 does it, right? Where you play 10 games, or you play, let's say you play your 12 games, right? Make it a 16-team playoff. Okay, the first games are on campus. The first one or two, or first or second rounds are on campus. So first of all, you're going to sell incredible amounts of tickets, right? And incredible amount. It's going to be insane for these games, right? And you're going to see some cool matchups, like
Alabama and UCF.
Not only that, you're going to see
heck yeah.
You're going to see a game in late November or early December.
That would be Alabama and Iowa.
Where a team from down south, like Florida needs to go play in the, let's just say Michigan somehow gets back into that conversation where they're good like that. They've got to go play in the big house in the snow in late November or December. They've never played in the snow. Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
Or, hey, Michigan's got to go down to Florida. Okay, that's different too. Or, hey, some teams got to go play Ohio State in the snow. Like that's so cool to me, right? And it's on campus in these different on these different campuses. It'd be so cool. And then eventually when you get into the Final 8 in the Final 8, I'd say, then you bring it into, different, maybe just put them all in a dome or down south or wherever. Do it.
I think my preferred situation, I still like 8 teams. I think you need to keep the competition high. Like some of these, like just because they aren't, unless you're paying them or letting them make money off their likeness, like they still have a time limit of how long they're able to be accounted for. You'd have to get rid of at least 1 or 2 games if you made it 16, or do something different about conference championship week.
Or you could just say there's no non-conference games or one non-conference game.
Yeah, that's what
play conference games after that.
I think you put it at 8 teams. You give all the Power 5 conferences. If you win that conference, even if it's the terrible Pac-12, you get in. Like that's in, and then there's 3 at large, and 3 at large, and I think you got to keep one of those for a freaking G5 school, man. Yeah, like it just, and you don't have to because there's not always like an undefeated one every year, but like right now you'd at least have Cincinnati, Alabama, Notre Dame, Clemson, Ohio State, A&M, Florida, Iowa State, and then Cincinnati. Like at least do you know how far that goes? But do you know how far that goes for a Cincinnati team? Like I don't know why these G5 schools don't just make their own playoff. Like just be different from the Power 5 conferences because they're never going to get taken seriously in this format.
The other thought is, okay, like, give them a shot when there's an undefeated G5 team, or you always probably have to put them in. But like, I think if you expand it to 8 like that, if they, I don't know, like I've always thought, like if you let a team like that into the playoff, right? If you let a Coastal Carolina this year, if you let a Cincinnati this year, like if they end up consistently getting there, like let's say Boise, how Boise State went on that insane for a period of time, like that's gonna, like if you just give that team an open window to where like, hey, you can make the playoff if you come play here. Like you can compete for a national championship if you come play at Boise State or Cincinnati or something. That's going to open the door for all these football players around the country and say, hey, maybe I'll go play at Boise State. Maybe I'll go play at Cincinnati. Maybe I'll go play at another Group of 5 school that maybe wasn't quite as good as Cincinnati this year, but they were right there, right? And then it's going to change the landscape of college football, and it'll eventually like give you, like you're obviously still going to have the Alabamas, the Ohio States, like the Clemsons, the monster teams, right? But it'll give you give those teams a fighting chance almost on the recruiting trail to be like, look, man, like last year we made the playoff. Yeah, maybe we got smoked by Alabama, but like we competed for a national championship.
Yeah.
We had a chance. If you come here, you can help us. You know what I mean? Like, and they might have a chance and a fighting chance for some of those recruits then. And I think it'll be kind of like a trickle-down effect where, like, suddenly it's anybody's game. But until that happens, yeah, if they're not going to be taken seriously or given a chance, like, I mean, there's going to be one-off years where they, where they're right there. UCF a few years ago, Cincinnati and Coastal this year. But like you said, there's not a team every year. And right now, even when they have the one-off years, they're not being considered. So I don't know. It's a debate. It's hard to think about because, yeah, you're right. They would probably get smoked, but you got to give them a shot probably.
Yeah, it balances out the recruiting process too, I think, and it helps kind of even out some teams other than some of the regular powerhouses.
Yep.
I'm going to do one more quick stat that just popped up now based on this game, and then we'll go to the pick six. And that is the Cowboys have now allowed 120 points off turnovers this year. That is by far more the most in the NFL. The Denver Broncos are second at 86. So, yeah, 34 points separating first and second in points allowed off turnovers this year. Cowboys are bad.
They're bad.
Cowboys, if it wasn't for the Jets, like, we'd be all thinking the Cowboys, even though they're 3-8, we'd be thinking they're the worst team in the league.
Yeah.
And if the Bears didn't start out 5-1 with such a cupcake schedule, they might be. But
Right.
yeah. Let's go to the pick six here. First game, Patriots Rams.
I know I just talked up the Rams. I really did. I talked them up.
But does Bill Belichick still own space in Sean McVay's head rent free?
Belichick's got them figured out. Obviously, they went out there and played great their last game. They're starting to look more like a Belichick team. They're dominating on special teams, just doing everything right. So I'm going to go Patriots in a close one, though.
Rent free. Joel, what about you?
Is this how you try to gain some ground?
Yeah.
All right. No, I'm gonna say the Rams here,
Okay.
and I think part of it is just kind of it's fresh in my mind that Ben and I just did talk them up.
I know. I talked them up, and now I picked against them,
But to your point, like the Patriots have played very well lately. Even if Cam Newton hasn't been that great, they're playing better defense at least. The offensive line is at least getting pushed with whoever is playing running back at this point. And like you said, special teams is dominating. They had defense and special teams scored 30 points fantasy last week. So they're definitely improving, and they look like a more well-coached team. They're not making so many dumb penalties anymore.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be a good game. That's why we put it on our pick six this week.
Yeah.
But I'm still taking the Rams.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with the Rams, too. I think this might sound weird. I think Bill Belichick still outcoaches Sean McVay, but I just don't trust Cam Newton against a really good defense. He hasn't shown this year that he can play against a really good defense. Like, those teams that he's played well against, the teams that he's done good against, like, they didn't have good defenses. The Chargers, terrible. Cardinals really don't have that great of a defense. Like, the Jets, obviously, like, when he plays good defenses, and even when he doesn't, I don't trust him to go out and win me a game if I'm Bill Belichick.
Sure.
And like I said, I think he's still gonna outdo Sean McVay on the coaching side. I think it's a close game, but yeah, I'm gonna stick with the Rams because they're playing for a lot. Well, I really wouldn't be surprised if the Patriots win.
Yep. All right, the football team versus 49ers. I'm gonna pick the 49ers here. Washington's played much better, and I still think like Alex Smith, like we've all talked about, probably gonna get comeback player of the year, even with like he doesn't have to start all 16 games, but like the fact that he's out there on the field should say a lot already. So he's played well though, and his opportunities with the football team.
Yep.
I just think the 49ers have a defense still to stop them, and I think the run game and the speed is going to be effective versus a defensive line front seven that likes to attack the middle. So if they can bounce those speed running backs outside, I think there's going to be success there.
Yeah, I'm going to go 49ers. I want to pick the football team, I really do, but I'm going to go 49ers. It's not going to be a blowout.
No, it'll be a good game.
Game, so 49ers.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Washington football team. I think they ride that high from yesterday, and they come in and take another win.
All right. Steelers, Bills.
Bills. I'm going Bills.
Hmm.
Steelers have a case of topsies right now. They can't catch the ball. I'm telling you, the Ravens did something where they figured something out with them, and the Steelers just are not playing very well right now. People have talked about how they're a little bit of a fraud of an undefeated team just because of the circumstances and some of the games they've won. They barely beat a Ravens team that had nobody playing, and they beat some other teams that have been shorthanded. So
They beat the Ravens twice.
yeah, I don't think they're necessarily a fraud. I think they're still a really good team, great defense. However, I think the Bills are flying high right now on offense. Josh Allen played great again last night. So I think the Bills got something figured out, and the Bills win.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Bills too. I think the things the Steelers do well is they guard the run, they block or defend against the run, and that's not what the Bills' game is. If you take the run away from them, Josh Allen hopefully has a good game and just throws 500 yards against you, which he definitely has the arm to. They definitely have the receiving talent to do, and they have been keeping Josh Allen upright this year. Like, that offensive line isn't like the best in the league, but they've been doing a good job at giving him enough time. And even when they don't give him enough time, he's creative enough to get out of the pocket and to make something work. So I'm going to go with the Bills. I think the Steelers just have not looked good the past two games. I know COVID made the last two games really weird for them, playing in those afternoon slots and playing on a Wednesday and a Monday when they weren't supposed to. Yeah, I think the Bills will take it away in prime time and just inch out a little bit over them. And yeah, I think the Steelers will. That'll be I think the Steelers kind of reality check, and then they will win the rest of the season. I think they'll end up going 14-2, but they drop one more.
Yeah, I'm also taking the Bills, and that's I'm just going to run with history here. Any team that has started out 9-0 or better in the season and then loses their game after being undefeated, they 84% of the time have lost 2 games in a row. So
they feel like a team to do that.
And if it was the Steelers playing the Jaguars or something, I'd be like, okay, let's Steelers that can bounce back from that. But the Bills are a proven team; they're a playoff team, and I think that's just a tough game to try to follow up after you take a pretty defeated loss when you think you can be 16-0 in a season. So I'm going to write history there, and I'll go with the Bills on that one. Last NFL game this week: Ravens-Browns.
I'm going to go with the Browns. Yeah. Again, the Ravens aren't showing me anything that's really making me write home about them. I do think the Browns are kind of flying a little close to the sun. Do the Browns – it's so weird to have, Cleveland Browns 10-3 in the same sentence just because –
in the same division as, the Steelers and the Ravens.
Yeah, and it makes me want to throw up. But, yeah, I don't know. I think the Ravens get off a win tonight. I don't think it'll be terribly – dramatic of a win. I think it might still be close. I think they're only up by a touchdown right now, but yeah, I think the Cleveland Browns are kind of riding high, and I think it's closer than they're not going to have this freaking 28-point second quarter like they did this week against the Titans, but I think the Browns take this one.
I'm going to go with the Ravens. It's not going to be the trendy pick, but I'm going to go with the Ravens. I think they figure some things out defensively. I think they're going to be able to run the ball a little bit on the Browns. And I just think they're coached well enough. I don't really think the Browns are very well coached necessarily. I think the Browns have some great athletes, especially on offense, and Baker's starting to come into his own a little bit. But I think that the Ravens are going to take this one. It'll probably be a close game. But I think if the Ravens can keep it more of a low-scoring game, where it's not more of a a back-and-forth offensive game, that plays well into the Ravens' hand more than the Browns. I think the Browns do really well with a wide-open football game right now. That just fits their style at the moment. But the Ravens don't want that, and I think they're going to keep it away from that and kind of just ball control, lead some clock. Hopefully Lamar makes enough plays, and I think they steal one.
Yeah. This is definitely a tough game. I think probably the toughest for me out of all these NFL games this week. But I'm gonna go with the Ravens. Lamar's playing pretty well this game. And I think, like Ben said, I think they're gonna establish that run game. I think they're also on defense. I think they're gonna hone in on the Browns' run game, knowing that I don't know if Baker can maintain this momentum for so long. He's played really well the last couple of games. I just don't think it's going to continue over through another week here. So I'm feeling pretty strong about how the Ravens are just going to kind of have a plan to force Baker to have another outlandish game. So this game could definitely go either way, but I think the Ravens are going to figure something out. The better coach team, I think, is going to win this game. And I still think that John Harbaugh is a better coach. So.
All right, hopefully I can gain some ground on you guys in that one.
There you go. Illinois Duke basketball.
Yeah, I am going to go with Illinois. It's, on paper it looks like a close game. I watched Duke play Michigan State. Duke's a little bit of a mess. They don't really know what they're doing right now. Got a lot of young guys playing. Illinois is a little more veteran. Illinois is shooting the ball, I think, at like 45% from three right now, which is absurd. They're not that good of a shooting team. So they'll probably come back to earth at some point, but Duke's guard play is just so bad. We've got like four big guys that can definitely rotate in and out, which you need against Illinois because they've got some size inside, but Duke's guard play is terrible right now. And I think Duke probably rounds into a top 20 team, maybe even top 15 team by the end of the year, but right now they're not that good right now. And I think Illinois is. I would probably keep Illinois as a top 10 team for sure. And if Illinois does not win this game, I think that's kind of says more about Illinois than it says anything about Duke. So definitely Illinois in this one.
I'm going to take Duke, and that's kind of just based on schedule. And I know Baylor was number 2 when they played, but Baylor annihilated them. Mm-hmm. And like on both sides of the ball, it just seemed like they just showed them up. And I haven't watched enough Baylor in the last couple of years to really see how that team has established themselves. But obviously this year they're ranked pretty high. They're doing pretty well. And I think Duke, yeah, like you said, they've got a couple really big guys that can take care of it. And so if that kind of worked for Baylor, I felt like, with their big men against Illinois. And I think maybe Duke can repeat that to some extent. Again, I think it's going to come down to like a 5-point game by the final. I think people are going to be forced to shoot free throws and foul intentionally at the end. But I think I'm going to pick Duke on this one.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Illinois too. I just think they're a better team than Duke. I think they had a bit of a reality check with Baylor, but I think they're better than how they played in that game, especially towards the end of the game. They just seemed like they were kind of lost, and they got punched in the mouth a little bit. So, yeah, I think, like you said, Ben, like if there's a tournament this year, like Duke's going to round into a home court seed, and they're going to end up being a good team and maybe make it to the Sweet 16 or something like that. Like, you can never count out the Duke Blue Devils, and you can never count out Coach K, but I just don't think they're going to have it put together yet this year. I don't think they're ever going to have it like fully put together, but I don't think this early on in the season that they're going to know how their team's figured out. It always takes Duke, like, just seemingly because they have so many one and dones and they rely on those one and dones so much that it takes them a little bit to kind of just feel out what their team is this year, every beginning of the season. It seems like they always kind of slow start just to figure out what it is. Even when they had Reddish and Zion and RJ Barrett, like, it took them a little bit to figure out who they were. So I think they still are doing that, and I think the Illini know who they are better. I think they know who to play through. with, I don't know how to pronounce his name, but
I know Dosunmu.
Dosunmu. They just kind of know themselves better than Duke knows themselves at this point. So I think they pull it off. I think it'll be really close. I don't think it'll be much more than a 5-point game. But if either team was going to blow the other one out, I would think it would be Illinois. So I'm going to go with them.
Okay. Last one then, Michigan State, Virginia.
I'll go with Michigan State. Probably a close game. Virginia is not great. They can still certainly go out there and defend. So we'll definitely muck up the game. Try to make Michigan State play one-on-one. Aaron Henry's starting to really come into his own for Michigan State. Starting to figure some things out. They can start playing through him. He's being aggressive for the first time in his life, it seems like. And they can run the offense through him. So State is still going to have some growing pains with Rocket Watts at point guard because he's not Cassius Winston. And that would be Cassius Winston. He's just not remotely the same type of player, not remotely the same ability as a player. Rocket Watts does some things great, but he's not. He just isn't a point guard. He's a scoring guard, and he's more of a combo guard. So State really doesn't have that classic point guard right now. So they have some issues sometimes, but if they can play through Aaron Henry, they rotate in the bigs in and out with Marcus Bingham, Julius Marble, Malik Hall. Joey Hauser's been awesome as a transfer from Marquette. So I think they'll win eventually. It'll be probably a pretty low scoring game though. So.
Okay, I'm also going to go with Michigan State on this one. I was high in Virginia last year. They were pretty good last year actually, and this year it does seem like some of the seniors that have gone and passed have kind of affected that team a little bit, at least in its versatility aspect. Michigan State definitely has a couple of new guys that are just coming in and playing really well, and I think that's just going to continue on a really well-coached Izzo team. So.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Michigan State as well. I don't know why ESPN is showing that they only have a 30-some% chance to win. I don't trust. Let me see. I'll pull it back up. I think it was 32% or 38%, something like that. But yeah, I just think Michigan State's a better team. 38%, which seems stupid. Michigan State just seems like a better team. I haven't watched either of these teams this year. I haven't looked at any of their scores this year. All I know is that Michigan State beat Duke. Who knows how much that's saying. But yeah, I'm just going to go with Michigan State because they haven't lost a game yet, and Virginia went to overtime versus Kent State. And I don't know anything about Kent State
those
either.
golden flashes, man. It's the spirit of Josh Cribbs keeping him in that. Nettleman.
Yeah, I just if Kent State, if a MAC team in basketball takes you to overtime, I don't trust you. So I'm gonna go with MSU. That's my rule for life. Okay.
Well, there is a little bit of difference here in this week's Pick 6. So once again, an opportunity to make some ground back, going to 63 or 66 games total we've picked so far. So it's been 11 weeks, 6 games. Makes sense. Adds up.
Yep.
So yeah, we'll see you again next week, and we'll talk about the 72 games now that we picked.
Oh yeah.
All right, take care, guys. Have a good week.
See ya.